All right, then I'm going to call the meeting to order, our regular council meeting of June 15th, 2021. I'll ask everyone to please turn your cell phones off or place them on vibrate so it doesn't disturb the meeting. And I'll remind council of the declaration of pecuniary interest if it arises. You can declare it now, or when an item comes up that you need to declare, do it then. So we do have minutes here from the regular council meeting of June 1st. I'll look for a motion to receive those minutes if they're all in order. Moved by Councillor Webb and seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so our first item of business here is Committee of Adjustments. So I'll look for a motion to go into Committee of Adjustments with Deputy Mayor Giroux in the chair. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy and seconded by?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ellis. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead. You're muted, Dave. Dave, you're muted.
He's got two screens going.
Yeah. I don't know whether you can hear me, Dave, but you're muted there. I know you had some good things to say there, but we missed it.
He needs to unmute his first screen that he had on.
There you go. Try it now, Dave.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, you're gonna have to keep one of them muted there, Dave.
Get unmute.
You're muted on both screens, Dave. You have two screens going. That might be the echo.
That's the problem. I'm trying to shut one down.
Yeah, you'll have to shut it down or put headphones on.
Yep. Can you hear me now?
There you go. Good.
Yeah, Bianca let me in. Thank you, Bianca. I had computer problems this morning, so that was the problem. So we'll start this all over again. My apologies. Thank you, Mayor Martin, members of council. I will now call this Committee of Adjustment meeting to order and remind the members of the committee of their duties to require any to disclose any pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof if the occasion arises. So this public meeting is held under Section 45 of the Planning Act and its regulations. So I will now ask our planning consultant to provide the three minor variances, I do believe, and provide that report for us this morning. And so Montana, you have the floor if you're going to give these.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Our first application today is for minor variance A-06-2021, and the property information is as follows. The property owners are Dennis Andrew Bell and Shirley Margaret Bell. The property address is 95 Island 14 in Casabog Lake, roll number 1531-010-009-42700. The property is 1.35 acres and the zoning is island residential. The official plan designation is shoreline residential and the property is in the Methuen ward. The purpose of this application is to seek relief from section 4.37 along with section 12.2.1C and section 12.2.1G to permit the development of an addition, sunroom, and attached decks with an increased lot coverage on a seasonal residential property. The application will have the following effects. to permit the construction of a 1,677 square foot addition located 10.8 meters from the high water mark and the front lot line. Permit the construction of a 300 square foot sunroom located 11 meters from the high water mark and front lot line, and to permit the construction of 3 attached decks with the closest located 11.6 meters from the high water mark and front lot line, and to permit an increased lot coverage of 5.5%. The recommendation is that minor variance application A-06-2021 be approved with the following conditions: that the development be done in accordance with the site plan submitted, that any requisite approval be received by applicable approval authorities prior to the building permit being issued, the existing shed be removed, and that a building permit be issued within 12 months of the approval of this application and upon submission to the building department of the appropriate application, fees, and supporting information as required by the chief building official, and that the balance of the information in this report be received. As noted, this application is to permit the development of an addition, sunroom, and attached decks located 10.8 meters, 11 meters, and 11.6 meters from the high water mark respectively, and to allow for an increased lot coverage of 5.5%. The application meets the 4 tests for minor variances, is in keeping with the provincial policy statement, and meets the intent of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. It is my recommendation that this application be approved.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Montana. So first I will ask, is the applicant present this morning in the meeting?
Yes, we are.
Hello, we're here.
All right, thank you. We'll duly note that in our minutes of the meeting. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition of this application with us this morning? Bianca, is there anyone out there that you know of?
No, there's not.
Thank you. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in favor of this application?
We would like to, if we can.
Yep, you have a, yep, go ahead.
You know, we have been coming to Cashabog Lake for the past 18 years. We have 400 square feet currently with no closets. And this has been great as a Friday to Sunday kind of getaway with our family. We typically have during the summer, when our extended family comes to visit us prior COVID, we would have 20 people on our wonderful property sharing the lake with us, and have quite a few tents. Andy and I are at the point now where we're wanting to make this more of a permanent home for us and wanting to have some more comforts, as you know, as we get older, sleeping on a tent on the ground isn't necessarily the best thing. So we just want to have some more space. We want to have more space for our family, and definitely thinking as our kids are now adults, you know, in relationships, our family's expanding. We want to just have some more space and comfort for everyone to enjoy our little piece of land on the lake.
All right, thank you for that. So first of all, Montana, before I open it up to the Committee of Adjustment, I have a couple of questions for you. Can you tell me when the notices were posted and sent out?
I believe Sonia would have that information. Is she?
I think the committee should know that they were posted and sent out.
I believe they were posted and sent out in keeping with the Planning Act timelines.
Well, I hope so. Unless
have-
I miss, go ahead.
Sorry, they are posted at the marina.
Yeah.
We have seen them and read them, took a picture of them. So they are definitely posted at a public place at the marina at the boat launch where there is lots of traffic.
I think it was approximately about May 12th that I noticed it. And I did get a text from Mark Valencourt, the owner of Stony Point Marina, just inquiring as to how long they were going to be there and if I could remove them when we were finished with them or you were finished with them.
Okay, thank you for that. It's very
Okay.
important that we know that that's out. Unless I'm mistaken, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties on the island.
Yes, I believe that is correct.
And that's
That is
why I
right.
asked, about the notices, okay?
Yes.
Oh, you don't have a camera on this?
No. Can I
And-
speak to this?
Pardon me?
It's Sonia. Can I speak to this?
Yes, go ahead, Sonia.
On behalf of Mayor Martin, I did post at Stony Lake or Stony Point Marina, and I did circulate to all within 60 meters
Thank
of
you.
the island.
Thank you, Sonia. That's all I need to know.
Thank you.
The other only question I have in regards to this application is you've stated that you have, there's a holding tank. There is no septic tank, there's a holding tank. Can you give me any status on the holding tank? What?
I can speak to that. There is a septic system here. When the surveyor surveyed the lot, they didn't really speak to us too much. And I did notice on our survey, it says holding tank. And but there is a
Full
weeping
septic
bed
bed.
there. It's full and it's registered with the Peterborough Health Unit. Peterborough
Okay,
County
thank you for that.
Health.
I'll now ask the Committee of Adjustment for their comments. Go ahead, Jim. Mayor
Yeah,
Martin?
it sounds like everything was taken care of, so I would make a motion that we approve this minor variance.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Mayor Martin has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder?
Second the motion there, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Councillor Ellis has seconded the motion. Any more discussion on the motion? I'm gonna call the motion. All in favor? That motion is approved. Thank you for that, Montana. And you can move on to the next one, bearing in mind that this is still an open public meeting.
Okay, so
Thank
the
you.
next one is for application A-07-2021. And the property information is as follows. The property owners are Christine and Rick Simon, and the property address is 247 Fire Road 85A. The roll number is 1531-010-007-43300, and the property is 1.31 acres. The zoning is seasonal residential, and the official plan designation is shoreline residential. The property is in the Methuen ward. The purpose of this application is to seek relief from section 4.1E, along with section 4.37 and section 11.2.1C, to permit the development of a 433 square foot second story loft addition on the existing seasonal dwelling. The application will have the following effects: reducing the minimum required separation distance from an accessory structure to 1.2 meters, reducing the minimum required water yard setback to 6.1 meters, and reducing the minimum required front yard setback to 5.37 meters. The recommendation is that minor variance application A-07-2021 be approved with the following conditions: that the development be completed in accordance with the site plan submitted, that any requisite approval be received by the applicable approval authorities prior to the building permit being issued, that a building permit be issued within 12 months of the approval of this application and upon submission to the building department of the appropriate application, fees, and supporting information as required by the chief building official, and that the balance of the information in the report be received. No comments have been received to date on the application. As noted, this application is to permit the development of a loft addition within 1.6 meters of the high water mark and 5.37 meters of the front yard, and to recognize the existing separation distance of 1.5 meters between the dwelling and an existing accessory structure. This application meets the 4 tests of the minor variance. It is in keeping with the provincial policy statement and meets the intent of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. It is my recommendation that this application be approved.
Thank you. I will ask, is the applicant present this morning for our records?
I am here, Cindy Schumann, as agent for the owners, Rick and Chris Simon.
All right, thank you, Cindy. We will duly note that. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Hearing none, I'll ask it one more time. We are on Zoom, so sometimes it's a little sketchy. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application?
If I may, just a couple of brief comments. Just that we believe this is a modest addition to an existing cottage. Due to the terrain immediately behind the cottage, the option of adding backwards was not available to us. And the little shed that we're looking for relief for is an existing scenario, and it's kind of set quite precariously, and we don't want to try to move it. It's just been kind of nestled into a flat spot. And so we're hoping you'll agree to that.
All right, thank you for that. Before I open it up again, I'm just going to ask this, Sonia, if you're still there, can you tell the committee that the applications have been mailed and posted?
Yes,
Thank you for
the
that.
notices were mailed and the property was posted.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So I'll open it up for the questions from the committee. Comments? Councillor Webb?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, Deputy Mayor. I was just going to make a recommendation that we approve the application.
Thank you for that, Councillor Webb. We have a mover. Do I have a seconder? Seconder for the application, Councillor Pomeroy. Further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor of the motion? The motion is approved. Thank you. I believe we have one more.
Yes. So the last application is minor variance application A-08-2021, and the property information is as follows. The property is owned by Bill Fisher. The property address is 8 Fire Route 85G, roll number 153101007400600. The property is 1.2 acres. The zoning is seasonal residential and the official plan designation is shoreline residential. The property is in the Methuen ward. The purpose of this application is to seek relief from section 4.37 and section 11.2.1C to permit the development of a 49.1 square foot addition to the existing deck. The application will have the following effects: reducing the minimum required water yard setback to 0.9 meters and reducing the minimum required front yard setback to 0.9 meters. The recommendation is that minor variance application A-08-2021 be approved with the following conditions: that the development be completed in accordance with the site plan submitted, that any requisite approval be received by applicable approval authorities prior to the building permit being issued, that a building permit be issued within 12 months of the approval of this application and upon submission to the building department of the appropriate application, fees, and supporting information as required by the chief building official, and that the balance of the information in the report be received. No comments have been received on the application to date. As noted, the application is to permit the development of a deck addition within 0.9 meters of the high water mark and front yard to enclose the irregular nature of the deck and provide additional safety for users. This application meets the 4 tests for minor variances, is in keeping with the provincial policy statement, and meets the intent of the greater growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. It is my recommendation that this application be approved.
Thank you for your report, Montana. Is the applicant present this morning?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. We'll duly note that in our minutes. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this application this morning? Hearing none, is there anyone wishing to speak in application or in favor of the application?
We would just like to make a comment concerning the reason why we're trying to do this is really just to make it safer and clean up the irregular nature of the deck, like Montana had stated. It's kind of a strange configuration when we bought the cottage, and we just like to
Simplify.
clean it up a little bit. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. And I will ask you again, Sonia, everything went out on time?
Yes, notices were mailed out and property was posted.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment? Councillor Ellis?
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor Giroux, this application is quite straightforward. So I would recommend we approve the application following all the recommendations from our planner.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. We have a mover on the application. Do we have a seconder? Mayor Martin. So we have a mover, Councillor Ellis, Mayor Martin, second the motion. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion? That motion is approved. Thank you, Montana, for your reports this morning, and I will now take a motion to turn the gavel back over to Mayor Martin. Moved by Councillor Webb and seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? Motion is carried. All right, Mayor Martin, you have the chair.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Giroux. And we're not done with you yet, Montana. I think we have a couple of planning reports here that you're going to be a part of. So I'll go right into the planning reports. If you'd like to get them
Sure.
going.
Okay, so the first staff report is for consent application B-82-20 for a proposed lot addition relating to the properties municipally known as 249 Fire Route 84, 255 Fire Route 84, and 247 Fire Route 84. The purpose of this report is to provide background information regarding the proposed consent application and to seek direction from council. The application for consent seeks to divide the subject property, which is 249 Fire Route 84, in half to add each half to the abutting parcels on either side of the subject lands, resulting in no retained parcel. The existing seasonal dwelling is proposed to be demolished to facilitate the proposed lots additions. The benefiting parcels are municipally known as 255 Fire Route 84 and 247 Fire Route 84. The resulting parcels meet the minimum lot area and frontage requirements of the zoning bylaw and is in keeping with the township's official plan. The recommendation is that council advise Peterborough County Land Division that the township would endorse an application for consent to sever the lands for a lot addition as referenced in the preliminary severance review report dated September 21st, 2020, as prepared by the county. The application is being submitted by Thomas W. Shaw and James Shaw, the property owners. We also recommend that the existing seasonal dwelling be removed and that the balance of the report be received.
Okay, yeah, just looking at this, it's you don't see this very often where you're taking a full lot and adding it to the lots on either side. So I don't see any issues with it. What's council's thoughts here? Looking for a recommendation here. Go ahead, Councillor Ellis.
As through you, Mr. Mayor, as stated here, it's basically improving those two other lots. It's to me just adding good planning in place there. So I would move that we approve the recommendation here.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Ellis that we endorse this application. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pomeroy. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Montana, where does the minor variance come in here?
This is an application for consent. There's no minor variance for this one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion on the floor that we endorse this application with Peterborough County. So I'll call a question. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, and the next one here is planning report application B121. And it's another one for Peterborough County. Go ahead, Montana.
Okay, so this is for consent application B-1-21, which seeks to create a new residential lot on the property municipally known as 2114 County Road 48. The purpose of this report is to provide background information regarding the proposed consent application and to seek direction from council. So the proposed consent will result in a total of 2 lots, 1 severed and 1 retained. The severed parcel has an area of approximately 12.57 hectares with approximately 52.8 meters of frontage on County Road 48. The severed parcel is intended to accommodate future residential use. The retained parcel has an area of 42.58 hectares with approximately 486.4 meters of frontage on County Road 48. The retained parcel will contain the existing dwelling and outbuildings. A preliminary severance review was completed by county staff dated September 29th, 2020. Following the issuance of this report, the applicant revised the proposal to reflect the feedback provided by the county, and a scoped hydrological evaluation was completed by Beacon Environmental in support of the proposed consent. A peer review of the hydrological evaluation has also been completed by Stantec, and they are supportive of the findings. The severed lot does not currently meet the minimum required lot frontage of the RU zone, the rural zone, given the location of the site's existing natural features. As such, we recommend that an application for minor variance be required as a condition of consent to address the reduced frontage on the severed lot. The recommendation is that council advise Peterborough County Land Division that the township would endorse an application for consent to sever the lands to create 1 new lot as submitted by Evans Planning Inc. on behalf of the property owner 2717063 Ontario Inc. with the following conditions: that a septic permit is achievable from Peterborough Public Health for the new lot, that any requisite approval be received by applicable approval authorities prior to the issuance of a building permit on the severed lot, that a mutual entrance permit be obtained by the County of Peterborough for the severed and retained lot, that an application for minor variance be completed to the satisfaction of the municipality to obtain relief from the minimum lot frontage requirements of the rural zone, with all possibility of appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal exhausted, and that the balance of the information in the report be received.
All right, thank you, Montana. This is kind of an odd severance when you see all the juts in it, and I know it's making it fit the property, but there is a few issues around it with as far as the frontage on the road. So I guess that'll be something that Peterborough County will have to take a look at it if it gets to that point. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so a minor variance would be required to be submitted to the Township of Havelock for our review as a condition of the approval of the consent. The jutted lot fabric is sort of recognizing the natural heritage features on the site and trying to make it work within the site's existing feature.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'll open up to council. What's your thoughts on this one? Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Thank you, Mayor Martin. Just a quick question from Montana. When it comes to the barn and the minimum distance standards, it does cut into that lot, but that wouldn't have anything to do with where they were going to build. Am I correct there?
So it is permitted to encroach onto the lot. You just have to be able to demonstrate that there's a building envelope that could be built outside of the setback. So on the concept plan, you can see potential house location. Doesn't mean it has to be built right there. It's just demonstrating that you can accommodate a dwelling outside of the minimum distance setback.
Thank you, Montana.
Okay, then. So I'll look for a motion with the recommendation here is that we advise council, Peterborough County, that we endorse this application. What's council's thoughts? Somebody want to move that, or? Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd go ahead and make the motion that we approve. Of course, some of the qualifications have to be met through county for, as stated by Montana. So I would recommend that we approve the recommendation from Montana and send it to county.
Okay, so it's moved by Councillor Ellis. So, and Deputy Mayor Giroux, you had something there?
I would second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. Any other questions or comments with regards to this? I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Okay, all right, and we have one more application here. Or no, sorry, that's all I have here.
Scared
Sorry
me.
about that. I've seen another report there, but it's just more onto this one. So thank you, Montana, for that. And we'll move into delegations and presentations. I will ask our presenters to try and be timely. I'll try and hold to the 10 minutes if we could and get through these because we do have a lengthy day here. So our first delegation here is Chris Kowalchuk, and that's our Kowalik, sorry, Community Development Program Manager. So hi, Chris.
Good morning.
Yeah, so you have a report here with regards to the community safety and well-being plan, something that's been going on for a while. So
Yes, thank you, Mayor Martin and members of council. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see my presentation okay?
yeah.
All right. So this is a follow-up to the presentation I made, the information I provided last month to council on the community safety and well-being. The purpose of today's meeting is for you to pass a resolution accepting the interim report for the community safety and well-being plan for submission to meet the deadline of July 1st of the Ministry of Solicitor General, as all municipalities are required to adopt a community safety and well-being plan. We've acknowledged that we're not meeting the requirements of a full plan. However, certainly the city, county, and townships have all agreed to submit a joint plan. This interim report is quite a high level one, as you could tell from the attachment. One change from my presentation last month is that we've given ourselves a little more time through some of the submissions that I received from our advisory committee and also senior admin here at the city. We've moved it from what I had stated at your last council meeting that I was at, from a January 1st, 2022 date to spring 2022. The advisory committee has informed we've had 2 meetings. We had one yesterday, and we're moving forward with the planning. I'm not going to get into too much detail because I did provide this information last time, but just as a refresher and for the record, community safety and well-being plan involves taking an integrated approach to service delivered by working across a range of sectors, agencies, and organizations to proactively develop and implement evidence-based strategies and programs to address local priorities related to crime and complex social issues on a sustainable basis. Again, these were presented last time around identifying risk factors related to crime and any really risk factors that the advisory committee and councils identified to be included in the plan, identifying strategies on those prioritized risk factors to address them and to set out measurable outcomes that the strategies are intended to produce. You may remember this diagram around the 3 levels of intervention that we will be framing the plan around: social development, prevention, risk intervention, and emergency response. What we're doing locally, we've formed the advisory committee, and you have a list of those members in the interim report, I think on page 8, that is included in your package. We are going to be collecting data from all relevant sources, local plans, strategies, looking at local assets, whether they be committees that are in existence, ones that are maybe unique to the township, police service boards, looking at data, certainly Stats Canada and all levels of data that we can find related to community safety and well-being. And certainly from the advisory committee, we have quite a slate of experts on that committee. We will be undergoing community consultations. We haven't developed a strategy around that, but working with each of the townships, each township will be using its channels, whether it be website, meetings, social media, newsletters, tax bills, to receive community input on this plan. Identifying those risk factors, developing strategies, and creating measurable outcomes will be our steps moving forward. In keeping with what I had mentioned at previous council meeting around using existing plans and building on those, not duplicating existing work and existing information that has already been established and goals, using the community well-being plan, identified these 7 strategies or 7 key approaches, which we have framed the interim report around. And I'm not going to go through these in detail. There are high-level ideas and issues that are identified in the interim report around each of those. Those came from the advisory committee members and from the community well-being itself. We will be using that information to narrow down the work of the advisory committee as we develop the plan. The next steps, very similar to the plan outline, identify, collect, the needed data. It's, this plan is going to be evidence-based. So we need to collect that information and the community consultation work, identifying and aligning with those plans and local assets, a consultation plan, risk factors, prioritizing, developing those strategies that go across the sectors. So there's already existing work being done, but advisory committee members recognize that we could certainly do a better job around some of these more complex issues, such as housing, the opioid crisis, drug overdoses, crime, less crime, but, certainly transportation issues. I know rural municipalities are keeping an eye on what's going on in Selwyn and the transit project, the link going on there as far as linking rural residents to other amenities, both in the city and across the township and county. And then certainly developing measurable outcomes to monitor and track progress of the plan. Happy to answer any questions about the report or the interim plan.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And yeah, I know we do have a staff person on the committee for this, and it's been going on for a while now, and it's good to see it moving forward. It's something, I think it's a provincial thing that we have to do. So I'll open it up to council if there's any questions. I do have a resolution here if when we get to that point. So I can't see everyone on here. Maybe I can get it back to the full screen again. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, so council, any questions or comments for Chris? Seeing none. Yeah, so I do have a resolution here, and it's a bit lengthy, but it'll help us.
I can put it up on the screen, Mayor Martin, if you'd like.
Okay, and that way everybody can see it. Alrighty, there's the resolution there that we would be looking for today. So I'll give council a minute to read it. And what's your thoughts on that, council? I think it's something that we need to do to keep this moving. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
I will add that the plan makes no commitments for the township or any of the municipalities to take action on anything. It's a report to show the province mostly that we are moving forward. We do have a plan in place. We acknowledge we've missed their deadline, but are moving forward.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you, Chris. Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I finally found my button. Not sure quite what Chris is asking for this morning. Is he asking for us to pass the resolution, to accept the resolution?
Yeah, we would move this resolution for today and to show the province that we're all on board here.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Chris, and I will certainly move that resolution.
Okay, that's moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux that this resolution here with municipalities are required under the Police Service Act for this community safety and well-being plan. So to have a seconder for that, I can't see everyone on there right now. Sorry about that, Chris. All I can see is Dave and Larry. So, okay, there we go. Councillor Pomeroy, I think I seen your hand there. Second that. All right then. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you, Chris. That's good that we're getting that going. So hopefully we'll meet the July 1st deadline. So, okay, thank you for today and thank you for being timely here.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Okay, next we have, next delegation here is Peterborough 4th Economic Development. It's with regards to short-term rentals, and it's something that's becoming more and more popular. And I know Council had some questions with regards to this, and Rhonda and Tracy were good enough to come out today and give us an update on where it's at and help us understand. It's funny, our next delegation also is with regards to this with FOCA and Terry Reese. So welcome, Rhonda, welcome, Tracy. I'll open it up here to your presentation.
Great, thank you so much, Mayor Martin, and thank you, Council, for this invitation to speak to you today. We were asked to bring information about short-term rentals, as the Mayor pointed out. They are definitely being talked about in your community and several other communities as well. But for today, we really just wanted to have a start of a conversation with this Council and hoping that we can provide timely and relevant information about tourism overall, how the sector is changing, and then specifically about short-term rentals and their role, the trends, opportunities, and concerns, and then touch a little bit about how other communities are dealing with this topic. But for today, Tracy and I are going to tag team and put some slides up. If Bianca is able to share the screen, that would be great. And I'll turn it over to Tracy.
Thank you so much, Rhonda, and thank you, Council, for having us here today. So if we can move to the next slide, please, Bianca. Peterborough on the Kawarthas is a sought-after destination and welcomes approximately 3 million visitors each year. The visitor spend contributes over $300 million to our local economies. We are seeing tourism trends evolve, and dare we say that this destination has become even more popular during COVID. Domestic travel is now on the rise, and COVID restrictions have shifted consumer behavior and purchase decisions. Small and rural communities like Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, with an abundance of lakes and wide open spaces, have seen a dramatic increase in the demand from the visitor economy. The appeal and demand for private accommodation is rising in rural destinations, and this is not about to go away. While the demand for traditional accommodations for vacations is declining. Next slide, please. Worldwide, the tourism sector overall has been hit very hard due to COVID. Provincially and nationally, this may also be the case. However, small rural communities like HBM, the opposite may be happening. While we are seeing the cancellation of large events like the Havelock Jamboree locally, some businesses have indicated that they are doing better than before. Local grocery stores, retailers, bakeries, and restaurants in 2020 saw more demand than they could almost handle. Visitor decisions have also changed from price being the number 1 contributing factor to safety being the number 1 reason for a purchase decision. The data is also indicating that many want to escape urban centers like Toronto and Ottawa for the tranquility of the rural environments, thus increasing the demand of destinations like Peterborough and the Kawarthas. Research is also indicating that the most popular reason to travel right now is to visit friends and relatives, thus making destinations with large seasonal residents very popular. This trend is expected to continue well past 2022. Next slide, please. The cottager as a visitor is a very important market for a destination like Peterborough and the Kawarthas. The Federation of Cottagers Association completed a report several years ago that reinforced the value and importance of seasonal residents to a community and to the visitor economy. As you know, HBM has a population of approximately 4,500 permanent residents, but adds an additional 6,500 seasonal residents for several months of the year. And with it, some significant spending in the community while they are here. Since COVID-19, they are visiting earlier and they are staying longer. Cottaging is a coveted Canadian experience, and while many dream of owning their own cottage, that's not a financial reality for most. So renting a cottage is a way for people to have the cottage experience, fishing, canoeing, swimming, campfires, and boating, but in an affordable way to escape the big city and reconnect with nature, even if for just a short time. Next slide, please. Visitors have a variety of options when considering a vacation or getaway. The traditional options are hotels, motels, resorts. Other accommodations like licensed B&Bs, campgrounds, and trailer parks are available as well. Peterborough and the Kawarthas has a variety of traditional lakeside cottages and resorts. However, many are beginning to show signs of their age and are being sold for waterfront developments, which may impact options for visitors to choose from in the future. We also have the non-traditional yet very popular option of cottage and home rentals, of otherwise known as short-term rentals. Short-term rentals are not a new phenomenon, but the visitor demands for this type of accommodation is growing in popularity and showing no signs of slowing down. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Tracy. So short-term rentals in Ontario, we have heard a lot of conversations about short-term rentals or the home sharing economy, and they are defined as private home or cottage rentals for less than 28 days. In Ontario, home sharing is one of the fastest growing sectors in the sharing economy. It's being driven by consumers that are looking for greater choices, flexibility, lower costs, and information at their fingertips or on their cell phones. Home sharing platforms are present in over 190 countries across the globe. Some communities have readily adopted short-term rentals. They are Belleville, Quinte West, Kingston, Prince Edward County, Huntsville, Township of Tiny, and Grey Highlands. And I understand that Lake of Bays is also moving in that direction. According to industry research, revenue from short-term rentals have grown 31% in big cities, 53% in smaller cities, and 58% in rural areas. Locally, or a little bit regionally, the Blue Mountains and Prince Edward County are one of the most popular communities in Ontario for short-term rentals. They're already full for 2021 and they're booking for 2022. So as these popular communities in Ontario are filling up, there will be increasing pressure for destinations like Peterborough and the Kawarthas. Consumer demand is driving supply in this opportunity. So prior to the pandemic, there were already exponential growth of the sharing economy, but the pandemic has fundamentally shifted consumer behavior, and data shows that leisure travel accommodation is no longer dominated by the hotel category. Next slide. So short-term rentals.
Oh, sorry, Rhonda,
sorry,
I apologize.
that's you, Tracy, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So currently, HBM does not regulate at STRs, yet this accommodation choice in HBM is growing and the demand for this type of accommodation overall is growing even faster. When HBM completed its economic development and tourism strategy, it was estimated that there were 50 STRs operating in the township. And at the end of 2020, it was estimated that there are approximately 122. STRs operating through several different platforms within HBM. On average, guests are paying approximately $272 per night, which is generating an estimated $5.4 million in gross sales. This is a lucrative business because there is demand for that. Next slide, please.
So the appeal of the short-term rentals, for those who have never stayed at an Airbnb before, it's not always apparent why it's an attractive style of accommodation. They can be booked online and can come with their own independent reviews from past guests. Homes or cottages can offer private and larger living spaces and more choice. Short-term rentals have proven to be a vital asset during the pandemic and are performing better as an accommodation business when compared to more traditional forms of lodging such as hotels. Municipalities that have allowed short-term rentals feel that it can be a benefit to the municipality as it can boost tourism and attract visitors by providing them with the type of accommodation that they're seeking. It's also a great trial run for visitors to consider this destination beyond seasonal and consider a permanent resident. Owners also find the home sharing economy appealing because it does help to cover the ongoing costs of owning a cottage and allowing them to maintain their asset. Next slide. So, as always with the good, there comes the bad, and there are plenty of terrible news stories, and as counselors, I am certain that you probably get your earful of complaints about short-term rentals in your community. The complaints are often noise, excessive partying, leading to neighborhood disputes, commercial activity in a residential zone, increased strangers coming into the community. With COVID-19, there was the additional fear that they may be contributing to the spread of COVID-19. There's also concern that these short-term cottagers don't always know lake or cottage etiquette, how to launch a boat, how to paddle safely in a canoe, fishing rules, even knowing that sound travels across water, campfire safety, and when it's appropriate to call it a night. And so municipalities are plagued with complaints, but many have little ability to monitor these infractions and encourage compliance. So many have found themselves in similar conversations and are working hard to regulate this type of activity and strike a balance between encouraging growth to promote economic development and tourism, while also placing limits on the scope of activity permitted to preserve the character of your community. Next slide. The province has created several materials to assist municipalities with this topic, as the decision to permit short-term rentals rests with the lower tier or single tier municipality. Each municipality needs to consider and balance the benefits and challenges of the shared economy while addressing ongoing resident concerns. PKD has several resources and best practices that we would be happy to share with council and staff, should there be any follow-up actions. Many organizations have produced helpful documents. FOCA has a resource on how to be a responsible cottage rental host. Airbnb and Vrbo are the platforms for the short-term rental economy. They have also created responsible host guidelines. There's the home sharing guide for Ontario municipalities. There's a navigating the sharing economy. It's a 6 decision guide for municipalities. We also have some other research papers and documents, and as well, we collect best practices from other communities on how they are handling and regulating short-term rentals. Next slide. So consideration, I know that we've sort of thrown a lot of content at you today, and we know that this is a challenging topic for municipalities for a variety of reasons. We know that short-term rentals are continuing to be popular accommodation choices, but we know that they're causing some tensions in communities. So to help manage the ongoing tensions, some municipalities have chosen to regulate the short-term, the shared economy and short-term rentals. And so that does give municipalities the ability to control outcomes and manage risk while seeing the benefits. Some of the ways that they're doing that is through licensing. So some municipalities control the short-term rentals by requiring each host to be licensed. So those considerations for licensing may include where they're located, the location, how many, a maximum number of consecutive days that can be rented, or a number of days within a year, the number of guests, and a requirement to meet all fire and safety inspections. In some municipalities, they are also creating a code of conduct for guests and hosts to follow. There's also zoning bylaws. Under the Planning Act, of course, the municipalities have the authority to make local planning decisions that determine whether they'll permit short-term rental uses, and if so, where. the home sharing economy would be allowed through official plans and zoning bylaws. There's also self-regulation, and I think this is the interesting part about the digital platform, is that they're able to provide internal platforms and feedback and rank both guests and hosts. So this information is helpful for future guests to know that they have a highly rated host, but also for hosts to know if a potential guest has been a problematic guest to other short-term rental hosts. So this digital platform does allow for some internal regulation. And municipalities may also choose to limit or revoke licenses for hosts that do generate a large number of complaints as a mitigation measure. There's also taxation. The province, through the Municipal Act, does allow all lower tier municipalities to levy a visitor tax on short-term rentals. This additional tax is able to help the municipality offset costs associated for enforcement, tourism infrastructure projects, and marketing. And although municipalities have used tools, it's important that in each case where a municipality has tried to regulate short-term rentals, that there was considerable stakeholder engagement before they did so, because it's such a controversial topic. So despite all the information available, there continues to be considerable confusion and tension when it does come to the short-term rental market. And so without a doubt, consulting with stakeholders is a crucial part of any municipal decision-making process. Next slide. And so in summary, as we wrap up, we hope that this is just the start of a conversation, that you found the information useful. As an economic development agency, we are seeing rapidly changing supply and demands in the tourism industry, where what the visitor wants is continuing to evolve. The visitor wants more short-term rentals, while municipalities are struggling to manage and regulate this disruptive new style of accommodation. Both large and small communities are facing these new realities and challenges, and many have taken steps to address it that councils can study. And so best practices from different communities are available to learn from and show how municipalities are helping to balance tourism and community concerns. And Peterborough and the Kawarthas, especially our tourism division, is very knowledgeable on this topic and works with all of our external partners. And they're able to help and support communities in this region as they consider this challenging topic. And we just wanted to express that we are happy to work closely with this council and your staff team, and hope that this information that we provided you today has been helpful, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda, and thank you, Tracy. Yeah, this is something that we're hearing more and more. Councillor Ellis brought it up here a few months ago. And since then, I've had several calls around this, and it seems like it's getting the push is getting stronger and stronger. Like you say, there's some problems, but there is opportunities, I think, for the township too. So to find that balance, I don't know how we'll do it, but we're going to be relying on you. And I know Terry's got a report after this, and there's some examples in there on how other areas are doing it. And I think that's something we're going to have to decide as a council, or I really think it's a regional thing. I think the county is going to have to get involved in this, because I don't think we can do it on our own. I think I know Dave and I have heard several times from Trent Lakes about some of the issues up there, and how they would like to deal with it. So moving forward, we're going to have to all get together and see what we can do. But so the platform for like Airbnbs, is that, do they police it well, or do they just kind of put fires out? Do they have a method of taking care of some of these problems? Because it's gone from years ago, you had, the cottage owner that rented their property for a couple of weeks a year just to help pay the taxes or whatever. But it's turning into a business here now. And a lot of them are using these platforms that are out there. Is there any regulations with them that helps us police this? I guess, Rhonda?
Sure, I can take a stab at this, and then Tracy can fill in on everything that I've missed. But I think as far as the business itself, the Airbnb and the Vrbo type platforms, what they do is they allow the opportunity, and similar to Uber as a car sharing economy, is that you can rank and rate your driver, you can rate your guest and the car. Were they disruptive? Were they a problem with the account? And so Airbnb and Vrbo do the same thing, where you're able to rank not only the host, what was the facility like, did it meet its expectations on how it was being marketed, but they can also rank the guest as well. You know, did they damage the property? Did they receive complaints? That type of thing. It really is a notification for guests and hosts to have that information, so that a host can make a decision on whether or not they choose to rent to somebody that may or may not have a great host ranking, and vice versa for somebody looking for the appeal. You know, does this place meet its expectations? What it doesn't do is it doesn't provide reports to the municipality to say, these are the challenges, and this one's a good one, and these ones are creating some challenges. So I think it regulates internally, but it doesn't probably provide the type of regulation that a municipality would be seeking.
Okay, all right, that pretty well cover it, Tracy? Okay, and I just had one more question before I open to council here, and that's just with some municipalities are finding a balance and benefiting from the visitor economy. However, the problem of balancing this with the perceived negative impacts to our long-term seasonal residents and local residents may still be a concern. What can or what are municipalities doing about this, like as a group? I don't know if Tracy or Rhonda.
Yeah, I'll start, and then Tracy, you can fill in, because Tracy's been tracking since this is starting to been growing on our radar over the last couple of years. Tracy has been actively reaching out to communities to truly understand who is doing what and how are they doing it, and what hiccups along the way are they experiencing, what's working, what's not working, and she does have a vast array of information to be able to share. But what we're finding is really some of those considerations that I talked about in the presentation. Councils are able to take a look at licensing so that they could limit. And in some cases, municipalities are saying, and they break their community down into districts. You know, in this district, we're going to have so many. We're only going to allow so many in this area, or, you know, per lake or per region, or however they choose to do that. But they might impose limits. With strict restrictions within those limits on how they would operate. And so there would be a list, and as I mentioned, there's a code of conduct in some cases for some communities to be able to say, as a host, you're required to share information with your guests. And that's a role that tourism can certainly play, is helping to create that code of conduct on, you know, here's expectations and here's how you can enjoy your experience and make it better for you and your neighbors when you come to Peterborough on the Kawarthas. So licensing is a big one. I think also zoning, but that, and then there's also the taxation, because I think the flip side of that is enforcement. And no municipality really has the tools, the resources, and the finances to be able to enforce. Great to have a bylaw, great to have all of those things, but if you can't enforce them, they're not very helpful. Or people really figure that out quite quickly. So having those tools in place certainly can help a municipality, but I do think, you know, it needs research, it needs collaboration, and it needs to have some community consultations to really come forward with council making an informed decision.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add, Rhonda, there is that the province has been hearing from rural communities across Ontario that one size doesn't fit all. So for sure, they are allowing municipalities the freedom to do what they feel is right for their municipality. So what they would do in Toronto would not be what you may want to do in HBM. So certainly the power is with the municipality to determine the direction that you want to go into.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Webb, you had a question?
Kind of along your lines. We had a question. I think it was from somebody from Kosh Lake about. I guess with some of these Airbnb rentals come the license to use personal watercraft or whatnot, or that this is what I've been told. So who regulates that in terms of, like, is that a OPP matter, or is that something that we need to get involved in? But I'm just wondering how, you know, I'm getting questions from cottagers the same way. They have to go and take a personal watercraft test, yet these people are just showing up someplace for a weekend and they're granted a license. So, like, say with an issue like that, who would we be addressing?
Thank you. That's a great question. So through you, Mayor Martin, I think that is a question that could certainly be discussed, you know, in the code of conduct. And I don't know if the municipality weighs in on the assets that somebody may be willing to share as part of the shared economy, you know, whether that's somebody, you know, wants to include a canoe or, you know, a paddle boat or a speedboat as part of their sharing rental. That really is up to the host on what they're allowing to be part of the overall rental. But if it does seem to be a problem or a concern, then that might be something that a code of conduct would consider, that if boating is part of the shared rental, that they collect a copy of a boater's license to make sure that they're able to do that, just to have that on record. And this is just me thinking off the top of my head, but that's something that I would think would be appropriate.
Thank you. And I should have started by thanking you both, because every time you guys come, you have a very good presentation with lots of data. And in terms of the short-term rentals numbers for HBM, how do you come up with those?
So I will tackle that, and Rhonda, you can add anything to it that I miss. Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Webb, we have unsolicited, there's an unsolicited report provided to us by Hamari, Short-Term Rental and Compliance. And that unsolicited report certainly is not verified by PKED at this time, but it's all based on the public information that Hamari could get off of the public forums. So they search all of the Airbnb platforms, all of the VRBO platforms, and other marketing platforms to identify open cottage rentals and home rentals, and they pull the report together. This particular company is working with Kingston and Toronto, and is being considered by other municipalities as well to help in the compliance of the regulation for short-term rentals. So that's where we obtain the information from that particular report, which we'd be happy to provide to staff.
Thank you for that, Tracy. Just what I was getting at is, so these are just people that are reporting basically then that they're renting. So if I rented my cottage to my cousin, but I never claimed it on my taxes or reported it, then that wouldn't be covered here, would it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it would be only people that are marketing using the platforms VRBO, Airbnb, home sharing, etc. So it wouldn't be actual private cottages that aren't utilizing those particular platforms.
Yeah, just what I was getting at is the number could be substantially higher than what we're looking at too. So, which is already a high number. So,
through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Thank you very much, both of you.
Okay, Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Again, thank you, ladies, for your presentation. That was informative. I was so glad that you added the concerns list and not just give us the good news. So what you're giving us as a community or an HBM community that needs to address this Airbnb, it's not the small cottage that rents it periodically. It's the large ones that have been purchased and are full of people, where they used to have 2 or 3 people living. The neighbors now have upwards of 25 people for a period of time, whether it's just a weekend, and that seems to be the big thing. They flood in on the weekend. So you have identified some of the concerns. There's lots more that go with that. You know, right down to the environmental impact that it's creating. The people that maintain the private roads now have 4 or 5 cars buzzing. So there's several things, but you have given us some information that we need to now as a council go forward and see what we are going to do to try to control. As you say, if we control, put things in place, then you have to monitor it, control it. So it's a kind of a two-edged sword there. Again, as was stated earlier, we're looking for information and support from you guys as well to see what's the best steps. And we need to take some steps because it's one thing to hear about it, but it's another thing to see it happening. And so again, thank you for your report. And I know council at some point we're going to have to sit down and get serious about what we are going to do to try to mitigate some of the concerns. So thank you. Who else?
So I think to follow along with Councillor Ellis there's lots of problems, but there's lots of opportunities with this. And I guess when you talk about the accommodation tax, and I think something like that would have to be a regional approach. Like that's what I was talking about as far as the county, I guess, or our surrounding neighbors here. And I don't know where that's at now, but I think we're going to have to get ahead of the curve. Nobody knows what it's going to be like after COVID's over and people are starting to move around again. Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be busier, or is it going to be less when people can kind of leave the country and start to spread out a little more? But right now they're focusing on our area, and you know, there's been a lot of there is a lot of complaints and concerns, and enforcement is going to be a huge thing there. So this accommodation tax, what would that mean? I don't want to put you on the spot, but keep hearing about it. What would that mean to say, I don't know whether to say the county or say HBM, say we put in a regulation here, and you know, if anybody's renting for more than 3 weeks a year, we put an accommodation tax in, or some way of helping us here to pay for some of the issues that come with it. Would it be big bucks, or what are we looking at there?
Thank you. I'll try to take a stab at this. So I absolutely agree with you, Mr. Mayor. It will be so helpful if it was taken as a regional approach, because consistency is everything. It's very hard to monitor that this community is doing it one way, another community right next door is doing it a different way. You're on the same lake, but you may have different jurisdictions or different rules that you need to follow depending on which community. So certainly, you know, Peterborough-La-Kawartha's Economic Development is a regional agency, and it would certainly be nicer to be able to talk to the visitor with one set of consistent guidelines and regulations. But the way the province has set this up is that it is the jurisdiction of the lower tier municipality. So there's some great examples that in Waterloo region, as an example, where the communities have all collectively agreed that they were going to handle things a certain way and then roll up into the county. So at the regional level. So there's a lot of different options, but certainly consistency is probably the way to go, because you will be setting up different owners with different rules in the same region.
Okay. Yeah, and like I say, that some of the numbers I've seen around this accommodation tax could almost pay for an organization if it was done regionally. We could possibly have our own Peterborough-Kawartha County economic development instead of sharing with the city, because it looked like big bucks on some of the things that I've seen. So not that we're looking for the money, but we do need help to try and make this work and make it work for everyone, I think. So anyways, is there any other questions from council? Okay, not seeing any. So thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Tracy. This is really helpful, and I'm sure it's not going to go away anytime soon. So this will help us prepare for the next stage of it. And I think Terry has some similar concerns and maybe some comments that I'm not sure if you're aware of where Focus stands, but I'll take a motion right now to receive the Peterborough-Kawartha Economic Development Report. And that's moved by Councillor Webb. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. And with that, thank you. And we'll move over to Terry, if you'd like to bring your report forward.
Great, thanks, Mayor Martin and council, and appreciate PCAD doing my presentation for me with better pictures and
More local.
detail.
More local. It was all Havelock.
But I would like to share my screen if I could, just because I've updated the slides that I provided to council. So I just, if I could do that, I think I can share my screen here somehow. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, can you see that?
Yep, those canoes are on Cashbog Lake.
There's a considerable amount of FOCA pictures that are from Cashbog Lake, yeah. So thank you. Just a bit of background. Again, a lot of this information might be a little bit redundant, but I have a little bit other detail and a bit of perspective. So FOCA is the province-wide association of associations. So we've got about 500 member associations, about 10 in HBM, and you know them well. And we're all about sustainability in our communities, both economic sustainability and affordability, but also looking after the environment. So I'll be mentioning a few different references to some other information in addition to what we heard from Tracy and Rhonda, but Fair B&B being one of them. Just sort of a perspective, and I know the mayor had a meeting with the local groups recently and heard some of this, but and maybe to speak to Hart's comment about boating safety and issues have been a huge concern for our groups across the province the last year in particular. But these are this is just a perspective from across the province. The short-term rentals are right near the top of the list for people across the province. Etiquette and boating issues and safety are a big deal. And I'll just maybe, before I forget, there was some push to require PCOC, or the licensing for operating boats, Hart, that was proposed in the fall. And I can send you the information related to that, because renters were not required to have proof of operator competency, and that is still the case. But I'm happy to provide that information after the meeting. So Airbnb is a challenge for everybody in Ottawa and Toronto and other places. It's a challenge for keeping affordable rentals or adequate rentals available for the residents. So that's a big deal. It also has been a big push on rental pricing. So and of course impacts to existing hospitality. So as we heard, the shift from traditional accommodations to the home sharing kind of thing. These are the things we've all heard about. I won't belabor them, but it's changing the nature of our communities. In Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, about 60% of the residents live on the water. Those are residents. We don't call ourselves tourists, but we do consider ourselves an important part of the community. These are the kinds of things that we worry about and that may be aggravated by the increase in the shared economy. Some of the things we've already heard about is some residents want to rent their places. There is an opportunity to monetize this for the community through the accommodation taxes. And there's of course the additional people in the community that are hopefully adding to the local economy. I had a couple of examples I just thought might be kind of interesting. So the couple smallish municipalities, that are some similar and some less similar to HBM, but they've been licensing short-term rentals in Whitestone for the last 7 years. There's a licensing fee that people get a license, but they require, and this is a big deal for us, is that, and should be for council too, that we've got, very strict rules around the commercial use of for the traveling public, around fire safety, for access, for egress from your properties, making sure their environmental issues around the property are managed properly, parking, and all that kind of a thing. And so in Whitestone, they make the renewal subject to those kinds of inspections so that they can be assured that if someone's using a property in what is an otherwise residential neighborhood for commercial purposes, that they're meeting the kind of standards that aren't going to put people at risk. So that's the worst news story you want to hear, is that a family was not able to escape a burning building or something because they were in a building that wasn't suitable for the traveling public. The gold standard, or the most intensive option, has been the town of Blue Mountains. It's Collingwood. So there's hundreds of places there. There's ski chalets, different kind of neighborhood, but similar kind of and very popular area, where they've really taken it. They took it on the chin and went to the OMB, and something you need to consider their experience just about when they tried to regulate these things. But they do a fairly significant scan through using all of the online platforms to try and track these people down and then force them, require them to be regulated. And so this is as a result of complaints for the last 40 or 50 years. Bylaw was being tapped out, and they were worried about their reputation as a place that was a nice, rural, quiet, fun place to go. So they started with a short-term accommodation bylaw. Then they've now require people to be licensed, and they're all set out in a bylaw. And this information is all available both through the township, but we've got a lot of the stuff on our website too, and I'll give you the link at the end. So they have to do a complete application. They have to pay a licensing fee. They've got to have proof of insurance, and they have to have all of these things. The other thing that they require that I didn't list here is that they have to have a local key holder. In other words, and this deals with a lot of people that own properties that might live in Toronto, but own properties in the township. So they have to have a local number posted somewhere where if there's a complaint, a problem with garbage, a problem with parking, that they can phone, and there's someone that's appointed on a fee for service basis or otherwise, that they can show up and deal with whatever the problem is. And that's an interesting requirement. It's all complaint driven still. They do have some proactive service where they go around bylaw and make sure that they're upholding the standards that are on paper. And they continue to monitor the rental website. So like Hamari, they'd be watching for who's doing what in the neighborhood. And then they've got a demerit system. It's a fairly significant licensing fee, but apparently that didn't matter to the people that are renting full time, because it's a pretty lucrative business for these people. And you get demerit points if there's complaints. So when you can have your license pulled. So things as serious as a fire protection or fire code contravention, they basically lose their license because that's so serious. And then they have a list of other complaints. So that's a very intensive approach. City Kawartha Lakes, you may be familiar with this, just next door to Peterborough County. They had a whole bunch of public forums. 30% of the people that responded said something about that we think there should be some kind of policies in place. Again, you can look up all of this online. They elected, at least in my latest information, not to do a specialized or a new short-term rental bylaw, but to use existing bylaws to address it. Because many of the things that we're worried about, which is noise or garbage or parking, are already dealt with by your bylaws. And we're always so quick to add more bylaws, but that's not always necessarily the way to go. So City Kawartha Lakes decided to make sure that the fees were a disencouragement, so that was a meaningful thing to the owner, and they went to the owner, not to the renter, and that they accelerated. So if there's an unfortunate incident, that's one thing. If it's a pattern that gets worse, then there's an increasing amount of fine, and plus there's the administrative fee can get added to the tax roll, so you're not chasing people for fines. So they basically decided to stick with their existing bylaws. In Huntsville, which is speaks to some of the issues that I think were brought up by PCAD. Again, the complaints, they've got quite a busy cottage rental, traditional kind of rental business there, not just Deerhurst, but they've got lots of mom and pop places that are losing all kinds of business to this new emerging business. So they decided to both regulate it, have a way to deal with complaints, but also put in this additional municipal accommodation tax. So that's all on the renter and the homeowner. That doesn't probably, especially with the price insensitivity now, doesn't impact the number of people that are going to come to the community, and it generates a whole bunch of money to administer the program. So that's a fairly newish thing that they did. Again, public info sessions. Rhonda mentioned that's a big part of this, is making sure the community's happy with the approach that the municipality is going to take. Need a license. You have to do all of your sewage system and parking stuff. And again, they did use the renter's code of conduct. So I'll just maybe finish by saying these are a growing reality. As we know, lots of homeowners are interested in doing this. It's emerged from the 2 weeks to your cousin, as was mentioned, to a commercial business. That's probably the pinch point that's getting to some people, is that there's now a commercial operation right next to you, where it used to be your neighbor, who, by the way, might have been offensive in their own way, but you actually knew who they were, and you could go over and have a conversation with them. When you've got absentee owners, and you've got different people in there with a full house or full house plus every week for of the year, it's really quite a different thing to have a commercial use of a property. Whether it contributes to the local economy, I'm not sure. Especially in COVID, people are coming straight to wherever they're staying, and I don't know if they stop anywhere to buy anything or hit any of the local stores or attractions. But that's a question, I guess, for me. I think having a code of conduct is an important educational step. Most of these kind of programs, you usually start with education anyways before you try and get too heavy-handed. Existing bylaws and penalties could be helpful. So, you know, if you don't want to take the step to specially regulate short-term accommodations. And there's lots of information. We've got many of these references from other municipalities and examples of the codes and other things are available there, and links to other references. And then I'll mention this last one that has come up, that there is a new group of cottage rental managers associations, and they're quite, as Airbnb and others are, about all the backlash to their businesses. So they are really kind of committed to the fact that this can be a responsible, sustainable business, and that if you have good owners that are properly vetting their visitors, and that there's clear rules in place, that this can coexist in communities without annoying everybody, and can make a difference. And they're not opposed to a fee, by the way, or licensing and that kind of a thing, this group. But if you wanted to check them out, they're also a source of some good information. And if you wanted to talk to them, that was it. So yeah, I know that just in speaking with the group, with the mayor last week, this didn't come up, and your bylaw folks would know this more about what the prevalence of complaints related to rentals are in our community. But it's there, it's under the surface, and it's coming. I mean, there's certainly some people that don't cause any problems, and nobody knows any different, and it's not any big deal. But every one of the associations in our area certainly knew about complaints. Whether they were the top thing that they were concerned about is another thing. But I can be fairly sure that this is a growing business that's going to cause some ongoing challenges. So I'm happy to work together and help with the conversation. PCAD's got lots of good ideas, and I think it's something that's worth getting ahead of and getting organized around. So appreciate the time and happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. That's like you say, there's a lot of information today between you and PCAD. So I think we are going to have to get ahead of the curve here. And like I say, we're hearing a lot about it through the county in some areas. I don't know, with FOCA, so how many lakes would you represent, say, in the county? Would it, you said you have 10 in HBM. I just wonder, it's one of those things that I see it probably thins out in some areas. Maybe they, like, I don't know, Cavan-Monaghan or whatever may not have any lakes. But so I don't know, when we say a regional approach, whether this should be a county approach or whether this should be a, you know, multiple counties as far as drawing a circle around between Hastings County and Northumberland and ourselves. You know, I don't know what the best way to do it is, but I think it's something we're going to have to start opening up discussion here with our ratepayers too. And whether it's something as simple as like some of the ideas you had there, if they're, I think one of them said if it's over a 3-week rental or whatever, that's where it kicks in. You know, that is a good place to start, because it's the ones that are doing it as a business that are a concern. Like you say, there's nothing, we see it even in the village with absentee landlords. These things here can be a similar thing, and they can be a nightmare. So I think it's something we're going to have to start to get a handle on, and it's going to be costly. So that's why it would be nice if we don't have to reinvent the wheel and we can copy some of these areas that are started already. I'll let you answer that, Terry, and then Councillor Ellis had a question.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor. It's certainly a municipal, you have the municipal jurisdiction to do it just within the township. And I think it's been quite interesting to see the townships side by side have taken quite different approaches, just because of their appetite for how active they want to get, how much budget they want to dedicate to it, how much money they want to try and raise from it. So I think there's some charm to doing it on a regional basis, and certainly with a regional tourist organization like PCAD that could kind of help coordinate it. There's something to be said for that, and having a county and upper tier organization like the county there, but certainly can be done and is done typically at the township level. And just, I didn't mention that the Lake of Bays Association, which kind of came up in the fall with a similar view of City Kawartha Lakes, which is let's just use our existing regulations, have just recently put in place a regulation that treats the rentals quite different. So to Hart's point about the fact that, you know, if it's a 1 week a year kind of a thing, you get a certain amount of attention, but if you're renting most of the year, then you've got a whole different set of obligations and requirements and fees and stuff. So they've got a really interesting model that's worth looking at, and that's linked from our website too.
All right, thank you. Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick comment. Thank Terry for his info. More details there as to how we may tackle this issue. And just a quick comment, I think you've mentioned different associations, and I think that will be great support in how we put together how we're going to tackle, I'm going to call it an issue because it's becoming one. I think the associations will play a part in how we put together what we need to do. And so thanks, Terry.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Webb.
Oh yeah, just to reiterate something you said, Mr. Mayor, is that this is something we should probably start putting on the plate for later this summer or even this fall, because from the numbers we got from PCAD, this is growing at almost an exponential rate year over year. So, I mean, the longer we wait, and I understand you'd like to get the county involved, but for my money, that's probably going to take too long. And at least at the moment, we need some kind of stopgap measures to cover ourselves here. So.
Okay, Terry, go ahead.
Just to Councillor Ellis's point, I think there's lots of examples of people who have done it in lots of different ways, and that's what we've tried to provide to our members, because every municipality is different and got different appetites, like I say. So I think there's lots of examples and groups that would be helpful, so you don't have to start from scratch, first of all. And then the second thing, there was a comment about what happens after COVID, and I don't know if you've been watching prices on the waterfront, but people that are buying places that, you know, that have doubled in price now, it's a reality that a lot of these people are buying on the basis that they think they're going to be able to rent. So it's definitely going to grow.
Okay. All right. So I think that's how we're going to have to move forward in the future here, is possibly coming back with some sort of a resolution that we start to investigate. We did have some numbers there from PCAD as far as what could be out there, but there's probably more than that out there, and that'll be the biggest part of this, is trying to get the real numbers as far as, you know, what we have there. And we do, I guess, if we use all the complaints that come in, we will be gathering quite an inventory of addresses that possibly are rental places and not necessarily cottagers looking for the getaway. So, okay, is there any other questions for Terry? Seeing none, we'll keep working on this and try and come up with something as we move forward. So thank you, Terry. Lots of good information. So with that, I don't have any other listed delegations. Was there any others, Bianca, that called in for delegation or anything? If not, we'll move along.
No, there was not.
All right, thank you. All right then, so I'll get a motion to receive that delegation from POCA. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We'll move into staff reports for information. We have a couple of reports there. Is there any questions about them? If not, I'll take a motion to receive them. Councillor Pomeroy. You're muted.
Yeah, it seems the building department has been very busy this year. 77 in April of site visits, and permit fees are way up compared to last year. I'd like to make a comment that Matt, our new building inspector, I've been informed that he wrote a couple of exams a week ago and passed 100%. So congratulations to Matt. And I see by the numbers here, we're busy and keep up the good work, fellas.
So you moving that report, the reports then?
Yep, I'll move the reports.
All right, thank you. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy that we receive the reports for information. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Webb? All in favor? And that's carried. All right, thank you. Next, we move into staff reports for follow-up action. And the first report there we have is Peter Lawson with regards to the 11th line reconstruction. Welcome, Peter.
Yes, good morning, Mayor Martin and members of council. This report is to seek council's approval for the reconstruction of the Belmont 11th line south of Highway 7 for approximately 0.8 kilometers, just south of the Old Norwood intersection. It always tends to be quite a bad spot there with the grader just at the intersection, and it would also be very nice to clean it up, that entire intersection and Old Norwood Road, as it's always already passed in the 2021 budget.
All right, thank you, Peter. Yeah, it is pretty rough there, so any improvements would probably be appreciated in that area. Any comments from council or questions? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Giroux, and then Councillor Webb.
Thank you for the report, Peter. This is long overdue. I didn't realize that we had the money left over from last year, and we kind of run out of time. If it works into our time frame this year, I certainly would make a motion to approve the recommendation.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux that we go with the recommendation. Councillor Webb, you
Yeah,
have
I'll second it. I'll second that.
All right then, so seconded by Councillor Webb. Any other questions or comments around this? Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next report here is Wenlin with regards to the community improvement plan and grant application.
Good morning, Mayor Martin and council. We had an application from Wildflower Bakery and Scott Williams, and we're just looking to get that approved to get some improvements in the community.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it's coming along really well over there. Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead. You're muted.
I'll make a motion that we approve this.
Okay, moved by Councillor Pomeroy. Councillor Webb, you seconding that? All right. Any other questions or comments around the motion? All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a report here with regards to conveyance of surplus property, Miller Timber Sands. Bob?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. The issue of a conveyance of two portions of a unopened road allowance first was brought to council in August of last year. So this report now completes the conveyance of the properties. Estimates of value were previously provided to council and accepted. So this report concludes that process.
All right then. What's council's thoughts here? There was a few emails came in around it, and I think it's all of them have been answered. I think all the questions have been answered, Bob.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, just to clarify, no portions of Shady Lane are being closed or conveyed to the property owner There is no obstruction to Fire Route 87. The portions of the road allowance are south of that. So as previously done through previous applications, this simply conveys unopened road allowances that are bisecting private property.
And it doesn't go to the water as far as, there was some concerns with regards to that, and it doesn't go to the water, it's just within the property.
That is correct. Through you, Mayor Martin, road allowance does not go to the water. This was confirmed by the original survey firm that completed the survey.
All right, thank you. What's council's thoughts here? Any, Councillor Ellis, go ahead, and then Councillor Pomeroy.
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, appears we've satisfied all the questions that were asked, so I would just recommend that we approve the recommendation from staff and make that motion.
All right, so it's moved by Councillor Ellis and seconder Councillor Pomeroy. I do see a hand up, but there is no opportunity here for that. Bob, that's normally this isn't part of the public meeting.
Through you, Mayor Martin, typically we do not, this is not considered a public meeting portion of our council meeting. However, at your discretion, you may choose to handle that as you wish.
Okay, I did see a hand up. What's council's thoughts here? Can we take a question here with regard, if it's with regards to this? What's your thoughts? Normally we don't. I'm not sure what the nature of the question is, and that's one of the reasons why this isn't usually a part of the meeting. So we'll leave it at that. And there is a motion on the floor that we stop up and close this portion of road allowance, and it won't have any effect. Everything's been dealt with. That was moved by Councillor Ellis and seconded by Councillor Pomeroy, I think.
That's
okay.
correct, through you, Mayor Martin.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you. All right, our next report here is with regards to the pickup trucks. And Bob, you have another item on the agenda here?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Further to previous discussions with respect to the allocation of pickup trucks throughout the township departments, management team has reviewed the current listing of pickup trucks. And as you see by the listing, all have passed their amortization value except for the first one on the list and the last one on the list. There was a correction sent to council yesterday via email. So truck 1548 and 1549 were actually added to the list in July of 2014. But management team has reviewed the allocation. We support the list as it's presented.
All right, then. Thank you. I'll open up to council. Any questions, comments with regards to this? Go ahead, Councillor Pomeroy.
Yeah, I would like to separate, put this in two different parts, but the one I'd like to speak to is the truck, the half-ton that we got rid of from the fire department. It was supposed to go to parks. There seemed to be some controversy over that. We didn't know where it went. We found out that the fire chief had it at his place, getting it ready for our deputy chief. And in the deputy chief's job description, we did not supply him with a truck. And, you know, I got nothing against Brad, but it seems that someone has taken this upon themselves without council's consideration or approval. And, you know, that's, to me, is disrespectful when you don't get approval from the council. And I really look at it like we only have one person in all of our staff that has a staff vehicle that goes home, and that's the chief. Everyone else is like any other place that you work, you drive to work with your vehicle, you drive home with your vehicle. I can't really see the point. You know, we've already spent over 80 grand, and if you put another vehicle in the fire department budget, a year down the road, you're gonna be, well, we gotta replace that. Well, that's another $45,000. You know, we're creating something here we don't need to, because, you know, I thought, you know, Ray would be happy with getting a deputy fire chief. You know, we went along with him. It's a step in the right direction. And I don't know, like, I just can't approve it myself, because it's taxpayers' dollars. We were elected as a council for the, you know, spend our money wisely. Don't create something that we don't need to create. And to me, like I said, it's disrespect, and I just can't go along with that. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm still of the nature that we have to look after our taxpayers. And like I said, the job description did not require what's going on here, so I will leave it for right now, and have other people question the same topic if they would like.
Okay, Bob, I don't see anywhere in here this truck was going home or anything like that. I've seen it as a work truck, but you can clarify that. But the other thing that I see in here, and it's the two Parks and Rec trucks. I think they should have their own trucks, and whether we go out and get two new trucks and get them into the system that way, there's something wrong here as far as we're giving them trucks that were not good enough for another department, but they're good enough for this one. I think when it comes to the asset management, I'm sure Wendelin has struggled with these ones here because they've done their life cycle. So I don't know how it works, but I just wonder if we should be setting up some sort of a committee here to look at this, to go into budget. And I would suggest maybe one counselor on the committee and then the management team to bring a report back to council on these trucks, because it's something that's been dragging on for the whole year. And I just think we need to get some clarification on these, because things have changed over the years. The public works truck it's not going home anymore. It used to. So there was a truck bought suited for that position, and now it's just a work truck. So I think all of these things need to be looked at, and I just would suggest that we need to set something up and deal with it at budget time. But as far as the fire chief's truck there, or the deputy chief, I don't know. I didn't see anywhere where it said it was going home. I just see that he's going to need a work truck when he is at work. So where we get that, I don't know. That's up to management. It's not up to council. That was what I was hoping would be a part of this. But what's your thoughts, Bob? And then I'll turn it back to Barry.
Through you, Mayor Martin, we certainly, as noted in the report, the amortization schedule definitely needs to be reviewed. We have some very old vehicles there. As noted in the report, one of our vehicles recently had a $6,000 repair. It's an older vehicle. We have a vehicle in our building department that is having corrosion issues and has been repaired a few times. So we are extending the life of these vehicles probably longer than we should. And I think that definitely needs to be reviewed.
So what's your thoughts on some sort of a committee to try and go into the budget with a little more prepared and understanding, like this report just says that, you know, the report stands, but it would be maybe better to have a little bit of information to go with it as far as, you know, if there's ways of tweaking this to suit council better, and also to take care of the asset management side of things. So I don't know what your thoughts are there. Committees sometimes can be onerous, but this is something pretty straightforward.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, I would not object if we wish to form a committee and have a member of council assist us. I would not object to that.
Okay. All right then. Councillor Pomeroy, you had a question?
Yeah, well, we got off topic again because I wanted to divide this. I wanted to get this fire department thing straightened out. I still don't understand why we have to have the chief and the deputy chief, have a truck. We already have another half ton in the shop. I don't know why it can't be driven, because now you're, like I said, you're adding another $45,000 or $50,000, in a year or two. It wasn't good enough for Ray to drive. Now it's good enough for our deputy chief to drive. And you want to add another vehicle. And furthermore, I'm getting back to what I said before. It was never approved by council to do that. And, someone's taken it upon themselves to go ahead, and it's like I said, it's not respectful to council or to our CAO, because nobody even knew where that truck was.
Okay. Yeah. All right then. Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I don't agree with Councillor Pomeroy's statements here. One of them was that it wasn't good enough for the chief to drive. I mean, the truck is 7 years old or whatever it is. It was out of service. There was some money spent on the truck. It's a fire truck. It can't be used for other departments. We've already went through that. When we had one chief building official, we had one truck. We got another building official, we had to get another truck. The chief and the fire chief or the deputy chief would be going in different directions a lot of times. I don't agree. Is the deputy chief going to be just sitting in the hall? I mean, I don't understand this. So I don't agree with Councillor Pomeroy that he doesn't need a vehicle. That's my comments.
And I think the big thing is it's not driving. I haven't heard anything that it's driving home and going to be a regular commuting vehicle. I heard it's a work truck. But we've done that with other trucks, that when you say that it's not good enough for Ray, but it's good enough for someone else. Well, it's the same in the Parks and Rec. We give them all the old fire trucks. We've done that for years. So to drive it every day, back and forth to work, I agree. It's probably not the truck to do that. But to get out and do things, you said about another truck at the hall, and I think we heard at the last meeting that I don't think ratepayers would be happy if our deputy is up putting 911 signs up at Jack's Lake, and a call comes in and that truck is at Jack's Lake and can't be used. So it is a truck, and I think that's where this committee would come into effect as far as going into budget. We can try and set it up that, there might be some sharing opportunities here for some of these things. I don't know about with fire, what kind of sharing can go on when you've got a fully equipped truck, but we would probably understand it better if a report was brought back. So I agree, this is to be used every day as a commuting vehicle. It's probably not going to stand up, and I don't think that's what we were looking at, but I haven't heard that it's going to be a commuting vehicle. All I've heard is it's a work truck. So I'll open up any other questions or comments. Go ahead, Larry. You're muted.
You're muted.
You're muted, Larry.
Thank you. So as I just said, and you didn't hear, I think we're getting off track a bit here again. We're talking about a commuting vehicle. We're supposed to be deciding on a vehicle that is presently at the fire department. But all councils, from my memory, figured it had gone to the Parks and Rec. So I'd just like to comment on two things. First of all, there was no request came from the fire department to add a vehicle. There was no direction from council or staff to add a vehicle to the fire department. It is a cost, as I guess Councillor Pomeroy has indicated, not just for the vehicle cost itself, but it's an insurance. There's a number of things go with the cost of a vehicle. And we're just automatically going to throw that in there. We were not talking at any point when we put this new position in place to add a truck to the fleet. And if that's going to be a decision at some point, that's fine. But if you look at the chart that Bob has given us, we have an old truck of 2004, which probably should be the one going out the door. That was past practice. When we bought a new vehicle, the older one was placed somewhere in the fleet where it was used, where it could be used, and the older or the truck that should go down the road went down the road. And I think some of us anyway took for granted that that's exactly what was going to take place with this truck. The fire chief's ex truck was going to go to one of those positions, and the older truck gone down the road. And that's been our past practice. And again, there was no request from the fire department. The staff didn't request, or council didn't make any decision to do what's happened here. And the cost, nobody's talking about cost. Like, as soon as you add another vehicle to your fleet, it's automatically a cost. We just replaced one, so we know what the cost is. Now we're going to add another vehicle. So I think there needs to be a lot more consideration here. And that, to my knowledge, there is a way of dealing with two people at the fire hall, the deputy chief and the chief. They can share a vehicle if they need. The chief is not always on the road. And I'm not the guy that's going to be pointing fingers in any direction here. All I'm saying is things weren't done to HPM protocol.
Okay,
And the vehicle should be going where it should have been.
okay. So Bob, what's your suggestion here as far as this report was from the CAO? You met with the management team. So how do you want to deal with this?
Well, through you, Mayor Martin, our suggestion is there in the report, based on the current list. And the request today, which includes all vehicles, is there for council's consideration.
Okay, so you've seen what management said. Council is not comfortable with this, so I think you know, we're going to have to make a motion here one way or the other. And I don't think council can complain when only one person can work at a time, and we have to order 10 speeds for them for the next for the budget time, so they have something to get around on. But but it is right now. It was done. It's council under the perception that it was going to the parks, which I don't think it should go to parks either. If it's not good enough for the deputy chief, it should go right out the door. And there should be a new truck purchased for Parks and Rec. We keep doing this. We're saying it's not good enough for that, so it's not good enough for anyone. And this is why we need to get a committee going to get these things going, because we've talked about it for several years and we're not getting anywhere. All we're doing is pointing fingers, and you know, management's telling us what they need and we don't believe them. So we need to go with, we need to get a committee going and understand this 100% on what they need for vehicles and what we can do as a council to keep our business going, because you can't walk around Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. So go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, we all realize that, Tim, and I think Larry has made a point there that, you know, that they could share a truck, and if the other truck has to be in the hall, well, let it be in the hall, and if someone's at the hall, they can use it. But on the rest of the trucks here, I'm going to move on further. We got some of these that want to be replaced in 4 years, 5 years. We had no problem with a lot of them with 7 years. And to do it properly, you should be tracking all of these trucks and see what it costs for repairs. you know, are they lasting the 7 years? I know I see some of them are way over, but, and you get rid of the one that's costing you the money, like the old Dodge down at the parks. It just had some more money spent on it. We should be getting rid of it. It should go, you know, to be put up for sale. But as far as just saying, well, you know, we've had this truck for 5 years or 6 years, whatever it is, we're going to replace it. At one time, Jim, you said, you know, Trent Hills goes to Reg Brown's and buys used half tons for to drive around. We don't have used half tons. Like we have, most of our fleet is in pretty good shape. And we got to weed out the bad ones. Maybe some of them will last more than 5 years or 7 years. But we don't have a tracking system on them, like how much is spent on repairs, blah, 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 for, you know, once a truck gets so old, and if it's costing us big money, we found that out with the tandem truck, get rid of it. But you don't just replace something for the sake of replacing. I know asset management says differently, but
So I totally agree with you, Barry. And when I said about the ones in Trent Hills, those are for students in the summer. They lease them for the summer and they get rid of them in the fall. They don't have all used vehicles. They do that for summer students. And that's a totally different thing. I don't want to get off track here. Our big thing here is the 7 years is normally, when we came up with these years, most of them are done by the end of that time. You wouldn't drive it yourself if it was that old. And that's where we got to look at these things, that they're, sure, there's some trucks that, you know, might get a little more life, but most of them are done when we come up with these schedules. It's the same as the lawnmower. We didn't replace the lawnmower. I told you that thing is done, but nobody listens to me. So when we're taking opinions of people that know these things, and we've been through these over the years, when we came up with the 7 years, they all had a reason for them. And the 4 year was because on the one truck was because it was going to have so many miles on it by the end of it, because it was going home every night and coming, used as a commuter. It's not there anymore. So that's something that should be looked at for this budget here. And that's what I'm saying. We need to set a committee up. Let's fine tune this list and make the adjustments where it needs to happen for the budget. As far as for the deputy chief's truck, if council wants it to go to the Parks and Rec, I don't think it should go to Parks and Rec either. I think we should get rid of it, or move it into that one spot. But we need to look at getting new trucks for them too. It's their department is totally separate. Maybe they'll get 10 years out of a truck, who knows? But that can be dealt with in that department. But right now, we're talking about the one truck. Seems to be the concern of a couple of councilors. So let's deal with that one truck and let's move on here. So go ahead, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. You're right. Let's move on. Let's deal with this one way or another. I'm going to make a motion that the 150 Ford 150 pickup 4x4 remain with the fire department as a work truck to stay at the hall until the end of the year, or until such time as a committee is struck to deal with the trucks. That's my motion.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor with regards to that truck, and that's the committee part of it should be should that be a part of the motion, Bob? So there is or do you want them two separate motions?
I can make it two.
Through you, Mayor Martin, Deputy Mayor Giroux did mention committee in his motion, so we've made a note of that.
Okay. All right. So the motion is that it stays with the fire department until the committee struck, and we deal with these before we go into budget here this year. So there's one motion. I'll look for a seconder and see if there's any appetite for this. Seconded by Councillor Webb. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I'll call a question. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. So the next part of it will be, Bob, so maybe in the notice of motions, or as part of this here, the motion, it was in that motion. So maybe for the next meeting, we could come up back with some sort of an arrangement or some sort of thing for a committee for this, like a structure, and set that up to move forward on this issue. What do you think of that?
Through you, Mayor Martin, we will establish a committee structure to review this matter, and it will certainly be done before budget, and it will be part of our budget process going forward.
Okay, and I think it'll be important to make this thing, to put this to bed once and for all. It doesn't hurt to update these agreements that we have, and this will be a perfect time to do it, and we can deal with it moving forward. So, okay. Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Just one last question through you, Mr. Mayor. The truck now that's going to be left at the fire department, is that truck to be left at the fire hall and used from there?
I think that's what was in the motion there, to be used as a work truck. If I
From the fire department.
yeah. Is that what that was part of the motion? Was it not, Dave? Go ahead.
Because that fire truck is a specialty truck and it can't be used by any other department. From what I understand, the rules in the Ontario rules and regulations, yes, it will be a work truck for the fire department only.
But it's to be used from the fire department, not to be traveled back and forth as a personal truck to get home?
That's correct. That was my motion.
Thank you.
Same as the building department. So, okay. All right then. That's, we'll move on. Next, we're going to move into correspondence. And we have one action item, but there is another item in information that I'll speak to. But the action item here is with regards to the Lions Club, and Lion Don Radner put together a lengthy letter here on where the Lions are at and helped us understand. And I think we all knew that they were struggling. And this really brings a lot of things to the forefront. So there's things here that we will be setting up a meeting with them and to move forward. And the agreement at the hall is going to be a big discussion there. So Don takes over in July, and I think the committee can be struck then. We can do it one way or the other, whether it's Zoom or meeting at the hall. But we will get together, Bob, here in the near future to deal with this. So I guess the letter today would be a letter to receive and set up a meeting, a future meeting with them. Will that work?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. I have reached out to Mr. Radner and we haven't connected yet, but the intention is to sit down and work out an arrangement that we would then bring to council for final review and hopefully final approval.
Okay. All right then. So I'll look for a motion to receive this this correspondence. Does somebody want to move it? Moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Pomeroy seconding that. It opens up for discussion on the motion. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. The other one there was correspondence for information. Now, normally I would just say we'll receive it, but the one thing that you should read and keep an eye on, and it was going to be partly part of our discussion as far as the county, but the Burnt Dam Bridge there is going to be something to keep an eye on. It's important to have Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, and Dave and I will do what we can to sell to the county on what it means to us and our community. And but the county is looking at a few of these bridges to offload them, and so it's going to be up to us to try and work out a mutual agreement that works for all of us. And they're listening to everyone. The part of the motion at the county was that we speak with all the parties involved, and we'll move forward with that. So other than that, I guess the correspondence for information, I could take a motion to receive the balance of the correspondence. Does anybody want to move that?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Ellis that we receive the balance of the correspondence. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Pomeroy.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions around that? Hearing none. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Did you have something, Barry?
No, that's good. I just answering your question, no comments.
Okay. Okay, all in favor, and that's carried. So now I'm just going to play catch up. So next we move into committee liaison reports and councillor activity. And I'll open it up for Dave. Do you have anything from the county that you wanted to update council with?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Martin. I guess we could start by our regular council meeting of June the 2nd. We had a lengthy discussion, Paragon, if I'm pronouncing that right, our consultant for Peterborough County Transportation Master Plan. We had a lengthy discussion on ORVs, ATVs on county roads. This comes after several other meetings, so the decision-making process at the county for the ORV bylaws and so on. One of the things that was discussed was Duro Dummer have 2 roads that are sanctioned by ORVs, ATVs. HBM have all their roads. Trent Lakes have all their roads. And Peterborough County itself, because it's upper tier, are regulated differently throughout by the province. They have 11 sections of county roads. So what's going to happen in the future? We jumped from stage 1 to stage 4. I believe I will call it stage 4 from the Transportation Master Plan. So the next step is going to be that our consultants are going to be in contact with each of the 8 municipalities in Peterborough County to get their input. And the alternatives they're looking for is going to be either all roads in Peterborough County, a selection of roads in Peterborough County, or no roads in Peterborough County. So that's going to be the outcome, and that's not going to be a quick outcome, but that's where we are now at step 4, I do believe. So I think that's important to know, that they're going to be in contact with all lower tier townships. The other thing I would, quick thing I'll report on is on June the 3rd, I had a Zoom meeting with our consultants in regards to our service delivery review, in regards to our roads department or our public works department. And this was to get a feel, and I'm sure that all the CAOs have probably had their interviews by now in regards to joint services between the county and our municipality and the rest of the municipalities. So there's a lot of good stuff going to come out of that. I think council should be aware of that if they weren't already aware of it. So, and maybe you were going to speak to this on June the 3rd or 10th, pardon me. We had a special council meeting in regards to the growth analysis and for the county, looking out somewhat 30 years. Brian Weir gave a great presentation along with Ian Mudd, and Rhonda Keenan was there from the Peterborough Economic Development and the economic development spin-offs and the land, how the landscape's going to change. We also had a guest speaker from Frontenac County, Joe Galvin, who is the Director of Planning and the Economic Development Manager, in regards to alternative services in the townships, which was a great thing that could fit for our township when it comes to building outside the municipal water and sewer system. So it was a great presentation, and I guess that's about all the verbal I have. Mayor Martin, you may have some other stuff.
Okay, no, you pretty well covered it all there, Dave. That's, yeah, that other stuff there for the economic development as far as building outside of the water and sewer areas was good information, and we'll have to try and get that information over to our building department. As it's with regards to septic systems and joint systems. It was quite a presentation, and it might fit in some of our rural areas. But Bob, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, and further to Deputy Mayor Giroux's report, I just wanted to inform council that staff did participate in all of those special projects with the county. So we have been involved, and we look forward to taking those projects down the road. We were part of the meetings regarding the growth plan and the ORV and shared services. So we have been participating. Lots of good things happening there. So we look forward to carrying on with those projects.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, we'll move into the other reports here, and we have library board minutes from May 13th. Barry, I don't know if there was anything to add there, but if you wanted to move those minutes be received, that would be great. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we receive.
Okay, moved by Barry, Councillor Pomeroy, that we receive those minutes, and seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. And I don't know whether you have anything to add to that, Barry, but it was pretty well explained in the minutes on what you're up to.
Yeah, and it's pretty hard, you know, with COVID-19. So we're all in the same boat.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, so, and as far as, I don't know if anybody else has anything to report with what they've been up to, but as far as my conference calls and things like that, I did meet with the HBMLA last week, and we had a good discussion around basically an update on what Havelock-Belmont-Methuen's up to this year, where we're heading, and there was several questions there around, you know, the official plan and things that we're doing there. And so far, I've met with Round Lake for their AGM. I have Kosh next month and Belmont Lake a couple weeks after that. So with that, it's yeah, busy times, lots of calls, you know, a lot more than I ever planned. I just looking at my third pad of, I write on a piece of paper on every meeting I have on Zoom, and I'm on my third pad of paper here. So I'm thinking there's been a lot over the last 15 months of meetings by Zoom, and I guess it's the way of the norm right now. So one day we'll get away from that. But is there anything else that anybody would like to add for activity reports? Go ahead, Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, just very quickly, we did have a cemetery board meeting a little over a month ago. I'm waiting for the minutes of the meeting, but I can give you a quick verbal. It was basically to review some of the costs. And we had a presentation from Mary Ellen Myers regarding green burial, which is becoming a thing in certain areas. But sometime soon we should have those minutes, council, to share. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else for activity reports? Oh, my hand disappeared there. Anyways, it's when you do that virtual background, everything kind of goes crazy. But okay, I'll look for a motion to receive the committee liaison reports. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. Next, we move into written or oral notice of motions for or discussion. Is there any motions, oral notice of motion coming forward today? Seeing none, we'll move into new business. And Barry, you had something on there?
Yeah. I was approached by a couple of people from the Havelock Country Jamboree wanting to meet with council concerning the Jamboree. I gave them all the information that I'm privy to, and I wanted, you know, like the rest of council, to be involved, to know what's going on, what they would like to do, what they can do, what they can't do. We're gonna have to tell them that. And I was not gonna be put on the spot by myself, and I didn't feel it was fair for Bob neither. So I thought that if the whole of council could meet with them, they want to meet some of the parties, let's put it that way, and explain what they would like to do.
Okay, and is that for next year or for this year, Barry?
Well, that could be, I think they would like to do something this year, but like I've told them, I said, I don't think it's possible, but anyway, they would like to hear, like to have a meeting with council and get the lowdown from everyone. And that way it's a joint effort.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they would like to have a meeting as soon as possible, they said. So,
Okay. Yeah, so probably there's no chance of anything this year unless they get into some sort of a drive-in, something that seems to be what's happening in some other areas. But I know for now, like I'm getting a lot of calls from people that don't understand it's a private venture, looking for refunds for this year. And I've had to tell them this isn't a municipal thing. This is a private thing. So if they were to have something, there probably would be some implications as far as the people that have paid for tickets for this year, wondering where that show is. But I think it's pretty safe to say everything's been canceled for this year through the province. So as far as if they have a plan, I guess if we were going to set a meeting up with all the parties of the Jamboree, we would have to get a kind of a list of what they want to discuss and make sure that it's something that we have any say in. It's what's your thoughts there, Bob? And then I'll go to Councillor Ellis.
Through you, Mayor Martin, if it is the will of council to meet with the Havelock Jamboree organizers, we can certainly arrange for that meeting. It would be helpful to have agenda items so that there is a focus to the discussion.
Yeah. Okay. So that's maybe something, I don't know who if the letter would go to, but if we were to ask staff to get back to them, I'm not sure who Bob would approach, but we would need a list of items that they want to discuss. So we're if there's anything we can do, Jamboree is a big part of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, but we can only talk about so much. We don't have a lot of control over what's going on right now. So
that's right, Mr. Mayor. We don't have any control over it, and I think that probably as a team, we could probably explain that better than one or two people.
Yeah.
And if you would like me to get in touch with the person that got in contact with me, I could, and they could get in touch with Bob, and we could set up. They would like a meeting as soon as possible. I know that, but they're thinking that, I'm looking at what they're thinking, and it's not going to happen, not likely, but we can hear them out.
Okay. So Bob, maybe, I don't know, you can write a letter to them and request some sort of items they would like on the agenda, and we could probably set something up within, if depending on how we did it, the council chamber would work if we, some of us are on Zoom as far as keeping the numbers down in the council chamber. We can kind of do what we do in some other meetings and let them come into the office. Barry and Larry had a question there. Larry, go ahead, and then Barry.
Well, I was just going to suggest through you, Mr. Mayor, for maybe the first contact, whoever it is that Councillor Pomeroy's been speaking with, invite them as a delegation, whether it be open or closed, and start that way. And then if it needs more than that, well, then we can do so. But that would maybe be my suggestion as a start.
Okay. Barry, what's your thoughts of that?
I'm dinging here. No, it's
sounds like a church.
Well, you know, I am a saint. No, like I say, if we feel we can have it at the office, it would be great. And if we couldn't, could we use the hall upstairs, you know, like, I'll have to go back to Bob on that one.
Okay, well, you know what? We can set
Yeah.
something up. Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, I think further to Councillor Ellis's suggestion, I think it's a good one. If we get a contact person, we can invite them as a delegation to our next council meeting, and that gets it done quicker and it gets the ball rolling.
Okay, we may have to get creative on that, but I think we can discuss that later as far as how they can do it, because I don't think they're into Zoom, so that's one of those delegation things that could be an issue. But we can help them with that, and we can try and get something going for the next meeting if that works. Councillor Pomeroy?
Could we get something before the next meeting?
I'm not sure how everybody else's agendas are. I know I just had one changed on Thursday that,
That's what I told them. I said, like, to get a calendar, you know, for everyone to be able to be present, that's something else.
yeah, it might be tough, but let's give them a few dates and just see if, I'll get my calendar over to Bob, and I'm sure Dave has, we have a lot of these. The county doesn't meet in July, so they've squeezed a ton of meetings into June. So we're full right up, and our next meeting for council is July 5th, no, 6th, I think it is. So it's really not that far away anyways.
30th of June.
That's the county one, but I mean, our HBM meeting, the next one is unstable. My internet's unstable here, so hopefully you're hearing me. Anyways, July 6th is our next council meeting. If that works, and if we can get one before then, we will. Is that okay?
Yeah, you know, it'd be nice to have it over and done with so we don't have to deal with it at a council meeting.
So I'll get my agenda or my calendar over to Bob, and we'll see if there's anything we can call a special meeting to deal with it. If not, it's July 6th would be, but we will have to get some questions and know what we're going to be asked.
Yeah, I will be in contact with them, and they can get in contact with you, Bob.
Okay. All right then. So is there any other things under new business? That's all that was listed. So go ahead, Barry.
I have one item here, the 6th line in Preston Road. Couple near accidents. Somebody going north down into the Burnt Dam Road, and the car come around the Preston Road, and they nearly collided. They avoided, and they wondered what we're going to do with that. I said, well, we've already done some work on it. Well, they said it don't work when you're going south, you know, going down over into Burnt Dam, and the car's coming around the other way fairly quick. So I said, well, I hate to bring it up again, but it's a complaint. So there it is. What are we going to do?
Okay, so that's something that I guess staff can deal with as far as now that you've made them aware of it. I'm sure Peter can put something together there. We did deal with it, and it goes with all the engineering studies and the way things are supposed to be done, but it doesn't always mean it's right. But Deputy Mayor Droe had something, and then Councillor Webb.
I inquired about this myself. I've got a couple of complaints, and without getting into great detail, I was told that if I'm turning down the Burnt Dam Road, I'm leaving Preston Road. So I'm making a left-hand turn. If I make a left-hand turn in front of traffic, I'm on the hook for it. That's what was told to me.
Yeah, and that's what we heard during the report in the first place. It's a tricky corner. It's kind of like 44 and 46. It's go ahead, Councillor Webb.
Yeah, Well, I think we've kind of had plenty of discussion on this. It was always my firm belief that it should be for safety reasons, if that's why we're fixing it, which is what I was told, was that it just should be a three-way stop. And I don't know how you get away from that. I know we've had numerous back and forths on this, but a three-way stop is very simple and you wouldn't have these kind of situations occurring. And I agree with what Deputy Mayor said in terms of left-hand turn, because I don't see, in terms of the rules of the road, none of it makes any sense, that intersection. So, but I just think it needs to be re-examined before something bad happens there, and we are on the hook.
Okay, so, you know, I think we've all heard the concerns around this corner, and you're right. It's, we've heard it all, and that is the problem. I think that was the part that some of the neighbors were trying to get through. It's the problem of the person turning left off of, off Preston, or off the 6th line onto Burnt Dam Road there. That's where the problem is. It's not coming from the other way. We did it as per the engineering studies that have been done in the province, but some things do, you know, require to look at it again. And I don't know if that's what you would like here. If you want to, somebody wants to make a motion for, you know, the Peter to take another look at it, but I don't think there's anything we've done wrong there. But it, you know, maybe it needs some tweaking. So what's council's thoughts? Go ahead, Larry, and then Councillor Webb.
Well, without beating a dead horse here, I think part of the problem is, first of all, we went with an engineered plan. We put all kinds of safety guards in, traffic indicators, and it's no different than any other road. If you don't obey the traffic signals and signs, then you're going to be in an accident. It can happen up Round Lake Road. It could happen on 100 different roads. I think part of the problem is because that old setup that we had before is kind of a common route there. A lot of people aren't paying attention. And I wouldn't say a lot of people, because I've had people come back and say that should have been done a long time ago. So it's maybe summer traffic. I don't know what it is. We're getting complaints. I haven't had any, but we're going by what we were recommended, and Pete went overboard with, or above and beyond with signage, new signs indicating the traffic flow, the main road. And so I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay, so Peter's aware of it. Go ahead, Councillor Webb.
Well, I was just going to say, I think we do need to have another look at it. And sitting back and waiting for an accident to happen, and then hoping that we are covered, to me isn't due diligence. We've already been told there's been a couple near misses, so I don't know why, but some of us seem to think everything's okay. So I'd like to have another look at it. So I'll make a motion. We direct staff to have another look at implementing a 3 stop sign solution to that intersection.
Okay, so we have a mover for that. That's a pretty specific motion, but so I'll look for a seconder to that motion that we asked staff about a 3 stop solution to the 6th line and Preston Road. Is there a seconder for that? I'm not seeing a seconder. It might be something, I would say that's defeated, but might be something simpler to just ask staff to look at it and see if there's a better solution than what's there. And even
but
there,
we've already been through that.
I know, and that's what maybe a one stop, maybe there is another opportunity, but other than that, we've been there, we've done it, and this is what fits. So if there's no other motion, I would just say that we move on, and we just received the report from Councillor Pomeroy that there's issues around that intersection. Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm kind of the opinion of Hart. I don't want to see 3 stop signs there. That's pretty specific, but we do have to have a look at it. Somebody's, you know, if somebody gets hurt, we're on the hook, and that's bottom line. So we do have to have another look at it, I feel.
So is that a motion then, Barry?
I'll make a motion that the roads department go out and have a look again and see if there's anything we can do. You know, at least we've tried, and I don't want to see an accident there any more than anyone else.
So, yeah, and that's something, you know, because there is other things to look at. Like I said, it's similar to 44 and 46. One of the issues is when you're coming up to there to make a left, I'm not sure how it works. I would have to look again. I'm on there all the time, but I just, maybe the clearing to the right there, you're not seeing people coming around the corner. Maybe there's an opportunity to adjust the sight lines to the right there as you approach to go onto the Burnt Dam Road. So I think the motion is okay to ask staff to just take another look at it there, so that we are aware of some complaints, and it may be the same. It may come back that this is the way it is, but you know, we have been approached and we need to take a look at it. That you know, maybe it's a one-stop thing. I have no idea, but at least it'll be addressed. So, is there a seconder to that motion? Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I'll second it with a comment, just as you made, is we've already went through this process. So I can't see how Pete comes back with anything different than the 3 recommendations he brought us before. And if what's really here is a safety issue, like I said, I would like somebody to tell me if it's a safety issue right now, as Councillor Pomeroy has brought up, how is putting stop signs not going to solve that as a safety issue? How is he putting yield signs and chevrons and all these other things that have created these near misses? If it's truly about safety, you stop the traffic.
Okay. So you've seconded that, you know, and we'll let Peter look at it. He, like I say, it's not saying that there won't be 3 stops. It's just leaving the options open. And we need it dealt with as soon as possible. And you know, you're right. Engineering, not everyone agrees with engineering reports, and it comes down to common sense lots of times. And maybe that's what will happen here. But we have a motion and we have a seconder. I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion to ask Public Works to take a look at this? So, okay, and that's carried. So we can deal with that as soon as possible. And like I say, it may come back exact same as what it is, but there was a lot of paperwork justifying what was done there, and we'll just leave it at that. So that's the end of new business. I'll look for, we have a bylaw here to stop up and close and convey those lands and premises part of road allowance lots 30 and 31. Oh, Bob, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. There is one other item under new business regarding a special closed session council meeting with the Integrity Commissioner for a training session. So that has been scheduled for August 11 at 9:30 a.m. So just for everyone to mark their calendars.
How can I miss that, Bob? You worked so hard on that. Okay, so just so everyone's aware, yeah, we do have a closed session training, closed session with the Integrity Commissioner for an update. So, okay, so we can move into the bylaws and the bylaw to stop up and close at Shady Lane there. Do I have a motion for that? Councillor Pomeroy, Councillor Webb, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, I'll look for a confirming bylaw for today's meeting. Councillor Webb, seconder. Deputy Mayor Giroux, all in favor? And that's carried. And motion to adjourn. Councillor Pomeroy. And do I have a seconder for that, or do we guys just stay here for the afternoon? Okay, Councillor Ellis, all in favor? And that's carried.